And FIFA's Independent Ethics Committee has banned former Guyana Football Federation, GFF, General Secretary Ian Alves from all football-related activities for 5 years after finding he sexually harassed female staff members. And FIFA also fined Alves 20,000 Swiss francs, 25,500, after determining that he had breached provisions of the FIFA Code of Ethics relating to the protection of physical and mental integrity and abuse of position and general duties.
The United Arab Emirates has said its air defences intercepted ballistic and cruise missiles fired from Iran, while a fire was reported at an oil facility in Fujairah after a suspected drone attack. Tehran has not officially commented. Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, along with the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, and the European Union have condemned the suspected Iranian strike on the UAE.
And Chinese President Xi Jinping has ordered an investigation after an explosion ripped through a fireworks factory in central China and its surrounding area, killing at least 26 people and injuring 61. Xi's order on Tuesday came a day after the explosion at the Huasheng fireworks plant in Liuyang, a city of 1.5 million in central Hunan province.
The Xiaomi 17T series has surfaced again in new leaks, revealing full specifications, design details and expected pricing ahead of launch. Earlier reports suggested the lineup could debut as early as May, and the devices have since appeared in multiple certifications and listings. At least 10 people have died in Karachi due to an intense heat wave as temperatures soared to 44.1 degrees Celsius, the highest recorded in the city since 2018. Officials said relief organisations Eddy Foundation and Chipper Welfare Association reported that most of the victims were found in different parts of the city, with several remaining unidentified.
And the Karachi administration has approved 21 cattle markets across the city ahead of Eid al-Adha, distributing sites across all districts while assigning oversight to multiple authorities to manage the seasonal activity. And according to the official plan, 4 markets will operate as permanent facilities, while 17 will be established on a temporary basis. 6 markets will be managed by the Karachi Metropolitan Corporation, KMC, and while the remaining will fall under the supervision of Deputy Commissioners and Town Municipal Corporations, TMC. And the Ministry of Education in the UAE has ordered the closure of educational institutions and directed a shift to online learning across the country. According to the directive, from Tuesday, May 5, 2026 to Friday, May 8, 2026, all Sorcery's public and private schools in the United Arab Emirates will conduct classes online.
The European Commission has advised member states to exclude Chinese networking equipment from suppliers such as Huawei and ZTE from their telecom infrastructure. The guidance, shared by a European Commission spokesperson, is not a legally binding rule. However, it signals a clear move toward restricting the use of Chinese networking equipment across the European Union. Climate change is no longer a distant warning. It is a lived reality reshaping weather systems, economies and human security across the globe. For Pakistan, and particularly for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, its effects are immediate and intensifying. The KP Chief Minister noted that the province faces a growing spectrum of climate-related risks, including riverine and flash floods, glacial lake outburst floods, prolonged droughts, heat waves, urban flooding, and the spread of vector-borne diseases. He warned that the scale and frequency of these events are expected to increase further, requiring urgent and sustained action.
Islamabad. Former NADRA chairman Tariq Malik has been named one of the world's top 25 identity leaders by US-based company Okta. The list by Okta Ventures, the venture investment arm of Okta, is a diverse compilation of forward-thinking developers, strategists, business leaders, and public servants. A blast at a fireworks factory in China's Hunan province has killed 21 people and injured 61, prompting a call from President Xi Jinping for a thorough investigation. State media reported on Tuesday the explosion in Liuyang, under the administration of Hunan's capital city of Changsha, and a hub for fireworks manufacturing, occurred on Monday at around 4:40 p.m. EU 8:40 GMT, according to reports by CCTV and Xinhua. Verdict authored by Justice Mohsin Akhtar Kayani declares Council's 2025 opinion against engineer Mohammed Ali Mirza null and void. Judgment says advisory body overstepped its constitutional mandate under Articles 229 and 230 Islamabad. In a landmark verdict, the Islamabad High Court, IHC, has ruled that the Council of Islamic Ideology, CII, has no legal authority to issue opinions on the criminal culpability of individuals. It's the biggest night in fashion. Celebrities arrived to the 2026 Met Gala with their take on this year's theme, costume art, where organizers asked attendees to experiment with the lavish and whimsical dress code.
And done. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has admitted that the Premier League title race has slipped out of his team's fat control after they were held to a chaotic 3-3 draw at Everton. It's now not in our hands. Before it was, now no, Guardiola said after the match on Monday. And Iran has accused the United States of killing 5 civilians in the Strait of Hormuz, saying its forces attacked passenger vessels in the waterway rather than boats belonging to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, as claimed. The claim on Tuesday contradicted a statement by US Admiral Brad Cooper, who said Central Command forces had sunk 6 IRGC vessels that had attempted to interfere with a US mission to escort stranded ships out of the Strait of Hormuz. And Charsad DA. Renowned cleric Maulana Muhammad Idris was killed on Tuesday after unidentified assailants opened fire on him, police said. According to police, 2 police officials were also injured in the incident. The cleric's body was subsequently shifted to the district headquarter hospital.
The dust at this busy recycling plant is pervasive, and the steady noise of hoppers and conveyor belts makes this a challenging environment to work in. The facility in Rainham, East London, is owned by Sharp Group, a family-run skip and waste management firm. Already reeling from the effects of conflict in the Middle East, Asia is now facing the prospect of strong El Nino conditions that could spike energy demand, sap hydropower, and damage crops. El Nino is a naturally occurring climate phenomenon that brings worldwide changes in winds, air pressure, and rainfall patterns.
And oil prices have risen sharply as violence in the Strait of Hormuz cast doubt over the fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran. Brent crude, the primary benchmark for oil prices worldwide, rose by nearly 6% on Monday to $114.44 a barrel.
Tensions are rising in the Gulf again after the United Arab Emirates said it intercepted 15 missiles and 4 drones fired from Iran, and warned that it reserves the right to respond to the treacherous attacks. The attacks on Monday mark the first time the UAE has been targeted since Iran and the United States agreed to a ceasefire on April 8. When it comes to the specter of AI's labor displacing potential, Jensen Huang thinks that the American worker has nothing to fear. During a conversation Monday night with MSNBC's Becky Quick, hosted by the Milken Institute, an economic policy think tank, the jovial NVIDIA CEO said that AI was an industrial-scale generator of jobs, not the harbinger of mass unemployment that so-called AI doomers have often accused it of being. A number of different topics were broached during the talk, but a central theme that kept coming back was the ongoing economic anxiety surrounding the AI industry and whether it was something Americans should be legitimately worried about. At one point, Quick noted, "This is happening so quickly. Is there a bigger dislocation than we've seen in the past that leads to greater inequality? And what do we do about that? The two state-run gas utilities are seeking steep tariff increases for the next fiscal year as the regulator weighs a gradual reduction in the allowance for unaccounted-for gas losses charged to consumers. The Oil and Gas Regulatory Authority has called public hearings in Lahore and Karachi on May 12 and 13 to consider tariff petitions from SWE Northern Gas Pipelines Limited and SWE Southern SAS Co. for FY 2026-27.
With the Strait of Hormuz caught in a dangerous limbo, the global energy markets have entered the most uncertain period of their history. Last month, the International Energy Agency predicted that both oil supply and demand growth would be slow compared to last year. This suggests not just supply disruptions, but also a weakening global economy. Oil markets are responding to the lingering crisis through volatility, shortages and rising prices. The IEA warning that demand destruction will spread points to a grim reality. High prices are constraining economic activity, particularly in nations dependent on imported energy, such as Pakistan.
And I have a confession to make. I was far from a kid when the Harry Potter books came out, and I inhaled them after being introduced to them. And I didn't just read them, but also noted the publication dates and was among those who would pick up the latest copy on the eve of its release and then reread them. That was, however, quite a few years ago. I haven't returned to the series in a while, but once a fan and all that, a sprinkling of the Wizarding World vocabulary still pops up here and there in everyday conversation, and sometimes more. And US says destroyed several Iranian boats after Iran claims strike on warship in Hormuz. Trump warns Iranian forces will be blown off the face of Earth if they try to intercept US vessels. Fire at UAE port after drone attack, and 3 Indian nationals hurt. Korean ship damaged in strait. Shipping group says transit through strait still not possible. Iran says US ceasefire proposal under review. Cooper discussed situation Wasserman Dubai. And after weeks of simmering tensions, hostilities broke out once again in the Strait of Hormuz as the US military claimed to have destroyed 6 Iranian boats while Tehran targeted a US warship entering the strait and, besides firing several missiles and drones towards the United Arab Emirates.
Islamabad. The Supreme Court's 2019 verdict, which provided legal cover to the otherwise controversial One Constitution Avenue project, significantly boosted its market value and attracted around 70 new high net worth investors. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan was also among these investors, but sources told Dawn that the cricketer turned politician had already sold his apartment, C1E, in 2022, and this property is now registered in the name of Shahid Nasir.
And geothermal startup Fervo Energy said Monday it hopes to raise up to $1.3 billion in its initial public offering. The company would be valued at up to $6.5 billion if shares sell at the top of its $21 to $24 price target. That's more than twice what Fervo had reportedly been seeking earlier this year when it confidentially filed paperwork with the SEC to start the IPO process.
Amnesty International has accused a rebel group in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, of mass war crimes and crimes against humanity. In a damning new report published Monday, the rights group said the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, was behind multiple cases of murder, abductions, forced labour and marriage, sexual abuse of women and girls, and the exploitation of children.
President Donald Trump says the U.S. has struck 7 Iranian fast boats in the Strait of Hormuz as Washington seeks to guide stranded ships out of the Gulf through the largely closed waterway. The UAE and South Korea both reported strikes on ships in the vital channel on Monday. The UAE also said a fire broke out at the oil port of Fujairah after an Iranian attack.
At first sight, last week's unprovoked attack on a French nun walking along a street in occupied East Jerusalem came without warning. However, for the roughly 180,000 Christians living in Israel and the 10,000 or so Christians living in East Jerusalem, the attack is the latest in a growing number of incidents of abuse, assault, and intimidation that the community says has increased in tandem with Israel's turn towards far-right nationalism. While incidents of violence and arson grab the attention, low-level incidents of spitting, insults, and disparaging graffiti have become a daily experience for many Christians in the area, the majority of them Palestinian, contributing to the desire on the part of nearly half of all the religious community under 30 to leave.